Hello and welcome to another short video. This one is going to be about 2D platforming and specifically about platforms in 2D platforming. This seems to be two of the things that I get asked the most about 2D platforming, and from certain searches and stuff, it seems to be two of the most commonly asked things about 2D platforming is how to handle platforms. And the two main things is moving platforms when you're using a Unity rigid body and jumping through platforms. Like in Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, you can jump up through the floor, and a lot of other platforms, obviously. You can jump up through the floor, but then the floor's solid when you land on it. So those are the two main things that people seem to have trouble getting their head around at the start, and they're both really simple. So I thought I'd do a quick video, because obviously I'm working on the card platformer game thing at the minute, and I spent a lot of time working with 2D platforming. So I thought I'd do a quick video explaining these two things. So let's get started. Got this little Game Boy looking level set up using, I can't remember which asset pack. It's an asset pack I've got off the store. This one's not free. I'll put a link to it anyway, but this one's not a free asset pack, I don't think. And obviously we need a player. And given that we're using Game Boy, I thought it would only be fair that for our player character, we have someone iconic, like a good 2D platformer type character. So with that in mind, it's a me! Dave, the electrician. Just to start off, the actual character movement and stuff, I'll just say it going here so you can see what's happened so far. The character movement, I'm using the 2D character controller as detailed in Brackeys, and I'm just going to put a link to that in the description. And if you want to know how to get a character controller up and running, I would recommend you go watch that video. I could make my own video, but I'll be honest, it's not going to be any better than Brackeys. So it seems a bit pointless me just repeating their content when I may as well just link to their video. So anyway, we've got a little 2D controller going. You can jump, and as you can see, he's got collisions. We've got these two walls at the side, and that's it. There's nothing much to this. I just, like I say, I used the asset pack and I got a character controller going. So we're using a tile map to make the level. Now I could just go into said tile map here and pull up my tile palette, and I could grab these two tiles here and I could put them there like that. And then if I press play, I can jump on the platform like so. But I can't jump up through the bottom because as far as Unity is concerned, they are solid blocks. So there may be a way to do this using the tile map, but I am not aware of it. So I'm just going to drag in two sprites like this. And what I'm going to do is create an empty, which is going to be a platform. We're going to call it platform. Then I'm going to drag these two tiles into said platform, and then want to set the position. Well, first off, we'll set the Z position and the Y position to the same, and then the X position. These tiles, everything here is like we're working in one unit, so each one of these squares of these tiles is one Unity unit. So this wants to be minus 0.5, and then this one wants to be plus 0.5. And that gives us our platform. And then we can add a box collider 2D to it. Sorry, I want to add it to this, not to the tile itself. And then the height, I'm going to set to 0.5. The position, I believe, will be 0.25. And then the width is 2. And that gives us our platform. So now I can put my platform in the right place, which I believe that will be minus 2. Everything's locked to squares, so it shouldn't be too hard to set everything in the right place. 0.5. And then now, if I press play, we still have our platform that we can jump up on, like we did with the tile map. But now, well, we can fix the fact that it's disappearing behind it. And it still hits the bottom like before, but now we can fix that using the platform, and then obviously you can make a prefab out of this and you can just drag it in, change the sprites as you want. First off, I'm just going to fix the fact that he disappears behind it. That is just the rendering order. So if I just set that to -1, that should fix that. There we go. Right. So the first thing we need to do is make sure our player is on a player layer. So I've created this player layer already. If you haven't got a player layer, create a player layer. It doesn't matter which index it is. It doesn't matter what you call it for that matter. It just needs to be a layer that applies to the player. And for that matter, anything else, you want to be able to go up through a platform. And then we're going to go to our platform and we're going to add something called a platform effector. And the first thing we need to do is, you see we've got this error here, or this warning. It says this effector will not function until there's at least one enabled 2D collider with used by effector. So if we go up to here, you can see there's this checkbox here. And what this is doing is it tells us, or it tells the effector that this is the collider that the effector is applying to. Now you can see we've got this semicircle here. This surface arc here tells Unity what direction or how much of the collider this applies to. So right now, it's just the top face. We can spin it round, like we can have it so that it's just underneath, so it will essentially work the opposite to the way we want right now. And that's basically it. It's that simple, and we want it to work one way only. And then in this mask here, first I'll select nothing, and then we want to select player. So we only want this to apply to the player, and obviously if you had other things that you wanted to apply to, you could select those as well. So now if we go through here, we should find that we can jump through. There we go. So that's the first of the two problems. And just as a little side note, if you want to do it so that you can drop back down by like pressing down, for example, a really simple way to do that is if I just go into scripts, just ignore that. This is just a basic script I set up to get the character walking around. So what we can do is we can say if input.get key down key code dot well, we're on S. Get your input however you want. I'm just doing this to show you how you would do this, but as far as getting your input goes, obviously I don't recommend grabbing key code S if you're doing a proper game. This is just for time's sake. And then we can just say game object dot layer equals, and it really doesn't matter what layer you put it on. The important thing here is that for a brief moment we're setting it to not be the player layer, so I'm just going to go with 0 for now. And then what I want to do is else if, and you want to do a grounded check here, because what will happen is if you just have it to be when the down key is pressed and then you let go of the down key before it's all the way through the floor, it might pop back up onto the platform. So what you want to do is if the down key is pressed, set the object layer to 0, and then else if the down key is pressed, so if we've let go of the down key or whatever, then if the player is grounded, set object layer back to where it was. And obviously you'll need to know what the object layer was, which I believe was 3, I think. Yeah, 3. So else if controller dot is grounded, I believe. Yep. The grounded check will obviously depend on how you set up your character controller. So if you've done your own character controller or using a different method or whatever, this may be different, but basically if it's grounded is what you want to be checking here. Game object dot layer equals 3. And this doesn't want to be get key down, this wants to be just get key. So we don't want it to just apply when we press the key, we want it to apply while the key is held down. Translate that to however you do your input system. So then you can just press this. And this is also another important thing to note here, is that you need to distinguish between platforms that you can jump through and platform and like ground here. Because if this floor was set to the same properties as the platform, then holding your down key there, you just carry on going straight down through the floor. So obviously you need to distinguish between the two. I'll just explain this part. In the character controller, I did change one thing from Bracky's code, and that's that I added this so that I could get the grounded check from outside. All it does is a public bool that returns the private bool for whether the player is grounded or not. So I'm going to create a moving platform, and then we will just quickly go over how you have the player work with the moving platform. And for those that don't know, I will demonstrate the problem as well. Okay, we have our moving platform. It's a dead simple script. All I've done is just make it so that we have a start and an end, and it translates towards the end, and then once it gets within this distance of the end, it reverses and goes back to the start, and so on. So it would work in any direction. You could use this to have it go up and down. It uses a vector 3 here. So the only difference is the X value, which is why it's just going left and right. But if I made these values different, it would also go up and down. It's 2D, so Z doesn't really apply. But if it was 3D, you get the idea. For those of you that don't know, the problem that I was talking about, the problem with rigid body 2D character controllers and moving platforms, is this problem. Well, that's not good. So, by the way, I just, to make this platform, I just copied these two that we made for the last part and changed the sprites. So you can still jump through it like you can, like with the normal one, and of course you can press down to fall through it like you can with the static one. So that all works the same. So to fix this, we're going to need to go into the character controller. We can't do this from, well, we could do this from the player movement script that I made, but it's just easier to do it in the character controller. So where we do the grounded check, which I think might be there. So here in this is in Bracky's, obviously, Bracky's character controller. Obviously, if you were going to do it differently, if you weren't going to use this controller, you'd have to translate this to your system, but it's fairly straightforward. So basically, we've got a check here, and we're setting grounded to false at the start of the update, and then we're doing the way this the way this controller is working is we then do a sphere overlap at the ground position, the ground check position, which is currently at the player's feet, and then it loops for all the colliders. If it finds a collider that counts and is not us, not the player, then it sets grounded to true. And then also it's got this check here: if player was not grounded before, then it knows that the player has just landed on something. So we're just going to expand this if statement, and then we're going to say transform dot set parent, and then the parent is going to be set to colliders I dot transform. So what, I mean, you should know what that's doing, but what that's doing is now when you jump on the aforementioned thing, it's setting the player to a child of that thing, which means that any movement by that parent object, the new parent object, will translate to the child as well. And there we have it. And then one problem with this is obviously we're only setting the parent when we land on something, which is fine, but then when you jump off of it, we're not setting a new parent until you like land on something. So as you can see, if I jump straight up there, he's following the platform, because even though we've left the platform, he's still childed to it. So we need to, not right now he's fine because we've landed on the floor. We need to unparent him whenever he leaves it. So what we can do there is we can come down here after the for loop, and if we get to here and the player is no longer grounded, then just say transform dot set parent null. So now we're only setting a parent when the player lands on something, and anytime that we are not grounded, we're just telling it that the parent is null. As you can see, he's no longer jumping with the platform. So that is it. That is everything I was going to show you. That is how you do those 2/2.5, 3 things in Unity with your 2D character controllers. Hopefully that was useful. I just thought I had to figure all these things out. It gets asked a lot. I just thought it'd be handy to share it with you guys. So yeah, that's all. Nice little short video for you. All that's left to do now is to thank my amazing Patreons, as always. All the Patreons get special thanks, but the super special thanks go to the super special supporters, who are Dave Maldine, Reg Reed, Gabriel White, Aaron Clark, Mr. Drunken Dragon, Crab Cake, and Julian, or Hooligan. Like I said in the last video, more information when I do the next update, which at this point will be the next video, because it was going to be this video, but sorry, update on the card former game. It was going to be this video, but honestly there wasn't a right lot to show in terms of updates, because most of what I've done is like coding stuff behind the scenes that doesn't translate to a lot of visible changes to the game. So I thought I'd put off that video until there's a bit more to show off, but there will be more information on the upcoming like demo slash beta test, whatever you want to call it, version that I'm going to send out to the Patreons. And yeah, keep an eye out for that. If you haven't seen it, there is a Beegs game jam coming up at the end of the month. Hopefully plenty of you participate in that. I mean, there's already 60 entrants so far. That's a lot more than I expected. If even a quarter of those actually finish a game, I will count it as a big success. There is a cash prize, so yeah, that's something for you to check out. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.